What's happening, everyone? In just a couple of weeks, we are going to be getting the reboot sequel to the slasher movie franchise, I Know What You Did Last Summer, aptly titled, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Same, but different. But still same.
And the trailers for this reboot sequel have done a great job at selling me on the film, as well as the fact that it's starring Madeline Klein. However, since I've never seen anything in the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise, I figured I should watch, review, and rank the trilogy of films before I go and see the new one that's coming out. So, without further ado, let's find out what they did last summer. Not gonna lie, this movie caught me off guard with its opening because I was expecting to see someone get caught lacking by the killer like most slasher movies open up, to give the audience their fix of death before they really get into the plot to set up everything else. But this opens up with a dude getting drunk on a cliff, and then we cut away to a pageant where we meet our merry band of misfits that we'll be calling protagonists. This is where we're introduced to Barry, who everyone knows as Wally from that one episode of King of the Hill, Julie, who everyone knows as Liz from the live-action Garfield movie. We've got Ray, played by the main man himself, the Trap Master from Scooby-Doo, Fred, and we've got Helen. I have no idea who this woman is.
You what?
Okay, I'm joking. I obviously know who she is. I just told you I watched Scooby-Doo 2002. It's Daphne!
I won't let you get away with this!
Alright, all jokes actually aside, I obviously know who Sarah Michelle Gellar is. She's the iconic Buffy the Vampire Slayer, even though I've never seen a single episode of that show in my entire goddamn life.
You what?
So Helen wins this beauty pageant by telling them that she's going to change the world and make it a better place by becoming a famous actress.
I plan to move to New York City, where I'll pursue a career as a serious actress. It's my goal to entertain the world through artistic expression. Through art, I shall serve my country.
This is bullshit.
And after taking the crown, our four heroes end up going to a party where we're introduced to Max, who's played by Leonard from The Big Bang Theory. And this might be a hot take, but I think Max and Ray's characters should have been reversed, because Max is supposed to be Julie's friend that's trying to steal her away from her boyfriend, but I'm sorry, man. It's definitely because I've watched too much Big Bang Theory in my life, but I can't see Leonard stealing Fred's girl. Now, if Ray was playing Max, and he's like supposed to be like, the suave, cool guy that's friends with Julie that's trying to steal her away from her nerdy boyfriend, I could see that. But like, Ray's a pretty nice guy in this movie, so there's no reason why I would consider Julie breaking up with him. So the fact that Max is trying to like weasel his way in there, I'm just like, this, I don't find this believable. Like, because all I see is Leonard, and Leonard ain't stealing nobody's woman, ever. But that's just me. However, I will give my guy brownie points because he did swing on Barry after Barry pushed him for no goddamn reason. And this is the one and only time in the film where someone acts normally to Barry's ridiculously unhinged behavior. I'll get into it later on because he does a lot more things that prove my point, but this is the beginning of me hating the character known as Barry and him doing a bunch of unhinged things that I personally couldn't let slide. However, since Barry started this altercation, our heroes have to dip out of the party and they all head to the beach where we get some vital information about them. We learn where each and every single one of them are planning to go after summer vacation is over. We learn that Julie is planning to go to college in Boston. We learn that Ray is planning to become some kind of philosopher in New York. We learn that Helen, again, is planning to become a famous actress in New York. And we learn that Barry is planning to become a professional football player. Something I find funny about their conversation is that Helen starts describing their entire life plan, like hers and Barry's, because they're a couple. And at one point she's like, oh yeah, and then you're gonna go to rehab. And I would have been like,
Say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
because like, what do you mean that he's gonna go to rehab? Like, if I was in his situation and that was my girlfriend and she's like cutesily telling me about how our life is gonna go and we're gonna get married and become rich and have kids, and then she's just like, and there's gonna be that 1 year that you get addicted to alcohol, like, whoa, what are you talking about here? Is this like equivalent exchange for our relationship working out? Because if that's the case, I don't think I want to be with you anymore. But that's just me. That's just me. Now, that's all the vital information that we need from this scene, but before we move on, I need to talk about how this is the weirdest scene in the movie, at least for me. Maybe I'm a prude, but these four go to the beach together, and then they splinter off into their two respective couples so they can start clapping cheeks. And, like, I could never see myself being like, yo, my best friend and girlfriend, do you want to go on a double date with me and my girlfriend to the beach where we'll just drift off from each other and start clapping cheeks? Like, that just seems like such a weird plan to me. Like, what kind of the thing is that, especially because they came together in the same vehicle.
What do you mean by that?
That was an extremely poor choice of words. They arrived together in the same vehicle. So what happens when one group finishes doing the deed before the other? Like, do you walk over and be like, yo, my fault, OG, I see you still clapping your girl's cheeks? Or, my fault, OG, you still clapping your man's cheeks. Just let us know when you're done so we can skedaddle. Like, what's the protocol for a situation like this? I don't know what's going on here. But like I said, like I said, it's just something that was on my mind the entire time I was watching the movie, so I had to share it with you all. But now, they all leave the beach, and Ray drives the car because Barry is too blitzed out of his mind to drive his own vehicle, and everything goes well. They get home safely, everything's fine, they all go to college, they become rich and famous, and this is it. That's the end of the movie. Peace. I'm joking. Of course things go wrong. They kill somebody. Barry should be dead here. On God, Barry should be dead here. He got slapped in the face with like a 200-something pound man who bounced off of a vehicle that was probably going like 25 miles an hour. Like, there's no reason he should be alive. Like, if I smacked you in the face with a paddle going 25 miles an hour, I doubt you're getting back up. But Barry's perfectly fine. The only blood that's actually on him is from the dude that hit him. Like, what are we talking about here? This is clearly plot armor. How dare you spare this man and subject me to him the rest of this movie? Now, this is what I mean at the beginning of, like, Barry being unhinged. Because after they get into the accident, Barry's first thought is to accuse Ray of crashing the car.
Jesus Christ, my fucking car! Can't you see where you're going?
Meanwhile, the entire incident that occurred is Barry's fault. For starters, Barry's the one who got too drunk that he couldn't drive his own car. Secondly, Barry is the one who crawled into the front seat to mess with the radio while Ray was driving the car, in turn distracting him. 3, Barry then decided to stand up in their already small and cramped car and climb through the sunroof with an open bottle of alcohol that he proceeded to drop on top of Ray's head while he was driving the vehicle, distracting him, once again resulting in... So this is entirely Barry's fault. But nobody says that. Nobody claps back at Barry for being an unhinged douchebag. They all just kind of let him spaz out. And like, no. You are not blaming me for something that you did. We're not doing this. That's not happening here. But things get worse. Within this opening of the movie, things get worse. We'll get there. So they all decide to dispose of the body so it doesn't ruin their lives. Julie is very apprehensive about that. She doesn't think it's a good idea. She believes they should just call the police and reveal what they did. But the rest of them are like, no, I'm not ruining my life because I hit some random dude in the middle of the street. I'm gonna get into why this is stupid in a moment, but regardless, that's their plan for the time being. But before they're able to pick up the body and throw it into the trunk of the car so they can take it to the ocean and dispose of it, Max pulls up in his vehicle and he starts chatting up Julie. So Ray and Julie have to pass a deception check to trick Max to leave, which they successfully pass, and he dips out. So then they grab the body, throw it into the trunk of their car, and they head off to the ocean to drop him off the pier. I said that backwards. It should have been they head to the pier to drop him into the ocean. Whatever, you guys knew what I meant. But then the unexpected happens. Right before they throw the guy into the ocean, uh-oh, he's still alive.
I gotta admit it. I did not see this coming. In a million years.
Now they all start freaking out and Barry flips the guy into the ocean, but the victim ends up snagging Helen's crown from the beauty pageant. Now the reason why this is so important is because that would directly tie them to the crime, because there's only one of those crowns in their entire town and Helen has it, which means that if they found his body with that crown, they would know Helen would have something to do with this murder. So Barry dives into the ocean to get the crown back, and once again they get another glimpse that the guy is not dead.
I gotta admit it. I did not.
Barry swims out of the ocean, pissed off to all hell, and then he demands that everyone makes a pact right now that they're never going to talk about what happened that night. Helen agrees, even though Barry yelled at her in a way that I don't think is anywhere near okay.
It is now merely a future therapy bill, agreed? Helen!
Whoa, brother, whoa, now. You got too much dip on your chip.
Ray also agrees, and then Julie, again, is extremely hesitant. She doesn't think they should have been doing this in the first place, so she doesn't say anything at first. And this is where Barry decides to choke Julie to agree with his demands.
Don't you nod your head, you fucking say it!
Yeah, okay.
We take this to our grave! Let me hear it!
Mind you, her best friend and her boyfriend are standing there in this exact moment, and they do not a goddamn thing.
Wouldn't let that shit happen to me, though.
Mainly, not because I'm some altruistic Superman, but because my parents would find a way to kill me a second time when I met them in heaven if I let someone choke out my girlfriend to force them to do what they have to say. They raised me differently than that. Even though I am built like the Pillsbury Doughboy and probably punched like a marshmallow, I would have to swing on Barry because there ain't no way you could choke out my girlfriend in front of me. I'll end up on the floor, I'll probably end up dead, but at the very least, I won't die a second time when I get to the afterlife and see my family members. My dad, my mom, and my grandma probably do me up like the JoJo's bit. And if I stepped into heaven, I'd be looking up at God and be like, hey, what are you looking at me for? You should have saved the girl. I don't know what you're looking at me. This is your fault. And I have to be like, yeah, you're right. You're right. I can't even complain here. But, you know, they don't do anything because, you know, they weren't raised by my family members, unfortunately. Julie ends up complying with what Barry has to say, and they all dip out, and that time skips us to a year later. Now, before we move on to the future of the story, I want to talk about how these four are idiots for this entire situation here. For starters, the guy wasn't dead. They thought that Ray checked his pulse properly, and they were like, oh, so he must be dead, but they were wrong. And they had multiple opportunities to go, oh, the guy's not dead. We should probably call the police or something, but they don't. So now, instead of it being accidental manslaughter, you know, where they just hit the guy with their car, now it's just full-on first-degree murder because they're actively trying to kill somebody, which is 1,000 times worse. Second thing, don't try and hide a body. You know, that's just obvious common sense. You know, call the police, call the ambulance, because if you try to hide the body, it's going to make things 1 billion times worse than it could be. Third thing, one of the key factors of them deciding to hide the body is the fact that they were like, oh, there's alcohol spilled in the car, they're going to hold that against us, but Ray wasn't drunk, and police officers have the ability to check and see what alcohol and drugs are in your system. So, like, yeah, sure, you had alcohol in the vehicle, but the person driving the car wasn't the one who was intoxicated. The doctor doesn't go, oh, there was a bottle of alcohol in the car, that means that everyone was drunk. No, you can't, that doesn't hold up in court. You need evidence. Like, I couldn't walk into court and then accuse somebody of doing something and the judge just go like, well, I mean, he said it, so obviously it's got to be the truth. Like, that's not how that works. They would have to prove that you were intoxicated at the time you were driving, which they can do because they have the ability to test these things. These four are incompetent. Fourthly, something none of them took into account is the fault of the victim. This man wasn't walking across a crosswalk and they hit him in the middle of a town square with a bunch of lights everywhere. No, this man was jaywalking on the highway in the middle of the night in dark clothes. And yes, regardless of the situation, it is held against the person driving the vehicle, but they're on a narrow road next to a cliff in the middle of pitch black darkness while this guy is skulking across a highway that no one's supposed to be walking on. All of that would 100% be held against him in a court of law as something that he wasn't supposed to be doing. I know this because when I was in high school, there was someone who had gotten hit by a car in the middle of the night. And when the authorities came to our school to tell us about it and teach us about what not to do, instead of being like, yeah, this was a freak accident, this is why you need to pay attention when you're crossing the road and so on and so forth, the first thing out of their mouth was, hey, if you go out at night, don't wear all black, don't put your headphones on so you can't hear everything, don't put your hood up, and then cross the street. Instead of being like, yeah, this was a freak accident, they were like, yeah, no, these are all the stupid things that this guy did that resulted in him getting hit by a car. So the fact that they didn't even think like, okay, well, maybe we're not entirely at fault because, you know, there was a guy standing in the middle of a highway next to a cliff that no one's supposed to be walking on. That totally would have played into their favor. Granted, they still probably would have faced some charges and repercussions for it, but it wouldn't have destroyed their lives. And the last thing that I don't think any of them took into account, with the exception of Ray, they're all rich white kids. Just have your parents pool the money together and hire fucking Saul Goodman and y'all be alright, damn! Now we fast forward a year later and we meet back up with Julie, where we see that Julie's life is a complete and total shambles. She's got like one friend at college, that being her roommate Carla, who we learn more about in the following movie. We also learn that Julie is failing all of her classes and is on the verge of losing her scholarship. When she gets home, we find out that her and her mom's relationship isn't really that great anymore. And to add insult to injury, she gets a mysterious letter in the mail that says,
He said it! He said it!
That's right, someone knows what Julie and the rest of our merry band of misfits got up to last summer, and now it's causing a panic. Julie decides to go and inform everyone to get the band back together to figure out what's going on. She first stops by Helen's family store in order to get Helen's phone number so she can contact her, only to learn that Helen failed at being a famous actress and now sells perfume at her parents' shop. So the two of them discuss the situation, and Helen comes up with the great idea of letting Barry know, and No.
No. Hell no. No.
Listen, I know the right thing to do is to tell Barry about it, but Barry is a certified crash out, and letting him know this situation isn't going to make him better, but it's not what they would do. So, I guess you gotta tell him. So Julie and Helen go to Barry's house, they let him know the situation, and Barry's like, yeah, I don't believe you, this is probably just a prank. And at that point, I would have been like,
Well, I've done all I can do.
hey, I did tell him at that point, I gave him the information, he just didn't want to believe me. You can't do anything about that if people don't want to believe you. However, Julie and Helen are significantly nicer than me, and they convince Barry that this situation is very real, and they come up with a theory that Max has to be the person who sent them the letter because he's the only person they know of that saw them that night when they hit the dude in the road. Now they head off to Max's job, and Barry's like, yo, ladies, I'll handle this.
What? No.
There ain't no way I'm letting Barry handle shit for nothing. He is a certified crash out.
You shut the hell up!
But they end up taking it a step further because Barry goes, I'm gonna handle it by myself. You two wait out here. And they just go, okay. What? Hell, no. There's no way I am letting you go in there by yourself. I don't trust you worth a damn. You are not handling this on your own. But you know what? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, right, folks? Let's see what Barry's genius plan is to figure out if Max is the killer.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on.
Yeah, that's about what I expected. And the funny thing about this part is that Barry never actually finds out if Max is the killer. He leaves and he tells Helen and Julie, he's like, I took care of everything. And they're like,
So, did he admit to the letter?
Won't bother you anymore.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Also, backing up to Max for a second, why didn't he call the police? Like, after Max gets attacked by Barry, he says that he will call the police if Barry comes after him again. But, dude, he attacked you unprovoked and threatened to kill you with a fishing hook or fishing blade, whatever the hell this thing is. Like, that's assault. That is assault and a threat on your life. You should 100% call the police. But he doesn't because the plot needs to happen, I guess. And then all of our heroes separate from one another. Barry fucks off somewhere, Helen goes back to work, and Julie runs into Ray, and we catch up with the two of them where we learn that the two of them broke up over the course of the past year. And then we get the first kill of the movie. Now, why exactly was Max murdered by the hash-slinging slasher here? Well, that's an issue that this movie has in the sense that this killer has a very specific goal. They want revenge against the 4 people that ran over the dude with the car in the previous year. Yet, for some odd reason, they just attack random people, and the actual reason for this is because, well, we need to pad out the runtime. And if the killer actually tried to kill these 4, they'd probably succeed. However, we can't do that, so they just attack random people to pad out the runtime of the movie, which is extremely annoying to me because multiple times throughout this movie, they kill at least like 3 or 4 people in this movie that had nothing to do with the accident at hand, and I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, just kill the other 4. That's what you want. What are you doing here? But fuck it, we ball. And now we move up to the second killer attack in the movie, that being when he runs Barry over with a car.
This does put a smile on my face.
To back up half a step and explain what's going on here, Barry went to the gym after disbanding from everyone else, and the killer starts messing with him. He steals Barry's jacket, he leaves him a photo, he steals his car, and Barry starts chasing the car down the road as he's reversing down the block. And it's just like, bro, why doesn't the killer just like put it in drive? Because he is in a car and Barry's on foot, he wouldn't be able to. Yeah, see, that makes sense. And that's again what leads into Now, when I was watching the movie for the first time, I was so excited, bro, because I was like, yes, finally, I hate this guy. We're gonna get rid of the worst character early on into the movie, and maybe things will pick up and be more fun. Finally, kill this punk. I need him gone. Yeah, the killer lets Barry live because there's only 4 main characters and the movie isn't close to being over yet, so we can't start killing them. And it's just like, bro, come on, man. Like, the appeal of Scream is that anyone could die if your name isn't Sidney Prescott. So, like, the idea that they just let Barry live just because they don't have that many characters in the film, it kind of diminishes the threat of the killer, especially when they start killing other people that have nothing to do with their goal. But Barry immediately showcases why he should have been killed by the killer in that previous scene, because the first thing he does when everyone meets up with him in his hospital room is blame Ray for being the killer. Now, what is his genius reasoning for why Ray is the killer?
Since you bring it up, we all know you have a slicker.
You serious?
I'm not joking. He believes Ray is the killer because Ray has the same jacket that the killer was wearing. Mind you, they live in a port town filled with tons of fishermen. Almost everyone in that town has that jacket. Just because Ray also has that jacket doesn't make him the killer. That would rule in everyone that has that jacket in town. It's so stupid. God, I hate Barry. But now our characters come up with an ingenious plan and they all decide to split up. Ray disappears from the movie because they really want you to think that Ray is the killer, so they just write him out of the story so you find it suspicious that he's never around. Barry is obviously hospitalized, so he can't go anywhere. And Helen and Julie head off to go and talk to the victim's sister. Something I didn't mention earlier on is that Julie followed the news to see when they would find the body of the guy that they ran over, and she learned that it was a man named David Egan. Insert severance joke here. She also learned that David had a sister named Missy, so her and Julie go to her house to ask her about David. Now, I always found this scene hilarious because they convince Missy that the reason they're at her house is because their car broke down on the main road, but Missy lives in the middle of the woods, so even if your car broke down on the main road, the odds of you walking into the woods to find her house in the first place is not
scientifically possible!
But she believes it because, I don't know, she's a dumb hillbilly. What do you want from me? But they managed to convince her to tell them some things about David, and that's when they learn about Billy Blue. Apparently, David had a friend that went to high school with him, and they think that this guy is probably their killer. Now, what do Julie and Helen do with this very vital piece of information? Do they rush over to tell Barry and Ray about it so they can be prepared for said killer? No, they go home.
Wait, what?
You heard me correctly. They went home. Julie drops off Helen at her house, and then she goes home. And this leads to probably the best sequence in the entire movie, where the killer sneaks into Helen's house. And I love this shot where he like turns the corner right before Helen comes up the stairs and sees him. I think that's really cool. Brother's got sneak level 100. Which, this is something I'm going to bring up now. The killer in this movie has superpowers. Not literally, but the amount of things he's capable of getting away with clearly showcase that he has abilities. Because like when he was messing with Barry at the gym, he popped in and out of the scene faster than Barry was able to keep up with him in this very enclosed space, and he stole Barry's car with no one seeing him whatsoever. Then when he ran him over with the car, no one came out and checked to see the building that collapsed, and nobody saw him out there. He was just a phantom, a ghost. And then in this scene here, this killer manages to sneak in and out of Helen's house without a single person noticing. Mind you, Helen, her sister, her father, and I'm not sure if Helen has a mom because we never see her in the movie. But regardless, there's at 3 to possibly 4 people that live in this house, and not a single one of them notices the killer is in here. And that becomes even more absurd when you learn what he does. You see, the killer cuts off the majority of Helen's hair.
Why? 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 Why?
So that means Helen somehow managed to sleep through the night as the killer was hacking her hair to pieces. Then he sauntered on out of her house without anyone noticing. But that begs the question, why didn't the hash-slinging slasher here kill Helen? I don't understand. You had the golden opportunity. She was asleep in a room. She wouldn't have noticed. You could have just killed her and dipped out. Why did you bother cutting her hair? Like, what does this accomplish? Especially because she still looks fine with her haircut. The movie tries to make you think that she's ugly with her haircut, but this is what she looks like after the fact. And sure, she probably has like split ends or whatever, but she still looks good. Like, she's not ugly. This is like that thing that old movies do with nerdy characters where they'll take a beautiful actress, put them in glasses, and they'll be like, ooh, look how ugly she is. And it's like, no, they're still hot. Perfect example of this is Linda Cardellini in the Scooby-Doo movies. This is like the third time I brought up Scooby-Doo in this video. Like, that whole movie, Velma's supposed to be considered the like frumpy-dumpy ugly girl, but like, it's Linda Cardellini. She's not ugly. She's just wearing glasses. Like, what are we doing here? But anyway, because of this traumatic event of Helen getting her hair cut by the killer, this prompts Julie and Barry to head over to her so they can see what's going on. And while Julie is on her way there, she keeps hearing a clanking in the back of her car. And she stops in the middle of a neighborhood, opens up the trunk, and sees that Max's corpse is in there with a bunch of crabs. She freaks out, looks around, doesn't see anybody in the very public neighborhood, rushes over across the street to go get Barry and Helen, and when they get back, not only is Max gone, the crabs are gone, and the trunk is spick and span. How? No, seriously. Remember a moment ago when I said this killer has superpowers? I'm convinced he's just the Reverse Flash, because there is no way that he would have been capable of taking a dead body, a bunch of crabs, and cleaning it to the point that there's no blood, residue, or stench of death and seawater inside this trunk so that Helen and Barry will look at it and think Julie is insane. Like, that's just absolutely absurd and ridiculous. Like, there's no way any human being would be capable of doing this. That brings us to the first time Julie says the iconic line of this franchise.
What are you waiting for, huh?
I don't know why this line has become so iconic. I've heard people be hyped about this line, especially when I looked in the comment section for the brand new one that's coming out, and people were like, oh my god, Julie said the thing! And I'm just like, wait, is this iconic? Is this an iconic line? Because I heard it in the movie, and I didn't think much about it, but apparently this is an iconic line for fans of this franchise, so, you know, here we are. Following this up, all of our characters go and meet up with Ray, who's been looking for them, and this is what Barry does.
You're gonna die.
Hey, stop it!
What are you doing?
Stop it!
I didn't do anything.
And it's just like, bro, what the fuck are you doing here? His reasoning behind this is that he still believes Ray is the killer. He's like, well, you weren't around and you've got the same jacket as the killer, so it's gotta be you. And it's like, bro, you have the dumbest reasoning for why you think Ray's the killer. And he's like, oh man, he's like, oh, you got a letter from the killer? Meanwhile, I get run over by a car, Helen gets her haircut, Julie gets a dead body in her trunk. It's like, it's mad suspicious, bro. And the movie is trying so hard to make you agree with Barry that you think that Ray might be the killer, but it's so ham-fisted that it can't quite possibly be him. So once again, they all devise a plan on what they should do, and because again, the movie wants you to think Ray is the killer, they write him out of the plot, and he doesn't participate in any of the plans that the rest of the three characters are doing. Barry and Helen have to go to a pageant parade, and Julie decides to go back to Missy's house to see if she can figure out who Billy Blue is. Now, nothing of value really happens at the parade other than Barry tackling an innocent old man. What an asshole. And Julie ends up getting some extremely vital information from Missy. She learns that the person that they ran over with the car isn't David Egan. The man that they believed they were looking for, that they were searching clues for this entire time, is not the person that they hit with the car. We cut back to Barry and Helen at the beauty pageant, and Helen's up on stage doing... I honestly don't know. I don't watch beauty pageants, so I don't know what this is. I think she's supposed to, like, give the crown to the new winner. And Barry, like an idiot, is watching Helen from up on the balcony that is shrouded in darkness and away from anyone else and where no one can hear him scream. Brother, you are being hunted by a killer. Why the fuck would you isolate yourself from any sort of witnesses? That's so stupid. But you know what? I don't care, because I hate Barry, and this is the scene where he finally gets what he deserved.
Finally!
Barry is gone now, and I no longer have to put up with his stupid-ass shenanigans the rest of this damn film. Now, obviously, Helen sees this because she can see up on the balcony. She freaks out, her and a cop go up to the balcony, and no one is there. And again, the hash-slinging slasher here has to be a superhuman, because there's no way you could have just murdered somebody and then cleaned up all of the blood and dragged the body off before anyone came up and found you. Like, it couldn't have taken them that long, like less than 5 minutes to get up there. There's no way that you just disappeared all of the evidence that quickly. But then the cop, because he sees how frantic Helen is, decides to drive her home. And on the way, they run into a guy whose car is broken down. He gets out of the car, goes to approach him, and That's right, it's the hash-slinging slasher. So now Helen is on the run from the killer, and she just narrowly manages to escape by making it to her family's shop. And I really like the tense scene here where her sister is trying to find the right key to open the door, and Helen's freaking out. She's like, oh my god, somebody's gonna kill me, you gotta open the door, please, oh my god, bitch, will you fucking open the door, oh my god, I'm gonna die here, what is wrong? So despite Helen getting inside, it is for naught. The killer breaks in and murders her sister because I honestly, again, I don't know. The killer just kills people. I imagine at this point, they're just doing it because, well, Scream killed random people, but in Scream, there was a reason. Like, Billy and Stu wanted to kill people just for fun, so random people dying in the movie had rhyme and reason to it. But here, the killer has 4 specific targets, yet he's killing random people. He killed Max, he killed the police officer, he killed Helen's sister.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that?
There's no reason he needed to kill any of these people. But fuck it, we ball. Helen tries to evade the killer, but it's for naught, and this is the end of her story. Now that just leaves Julie and Ray. Julie gets back to town and she goes to Ray to tell him the situation. And while she's trying to relay to Ray everything that's going on, she notices the name of Ray's boat is Billy Blue, and she's like, oh my god, Barry was right, you're the killer. And it's like, I don't think he's the killer. Y'all have been trying way too hard to make me think that he's the killer. I don't think that he's the killer. I think he is the guy that spoke to Missy, but I don't think that he's the killer. And sure enough, that ended up being the case, because when Julie tries to run away from Ray, she runs into this dude.
Who?
We'll get to it in a second. So Julie runs into this guy, he brings her onto his ship, and then he ends up doing something weird. That being setting sail. Why would he do that? Why exactly would he do that? Because, like, it's not like Ray knew where she was going. They didn't need to set sail. That was really dumb and suspicious. But fuck it, we ball. So they start setting sail, and Julie's investigating the ship, and she notices that the killer has, like, what do they call those things? Like a murder board or whatever of, like, all of the information about them. And then she realizes, oh fuck, he's the killer.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
And sure enough, that's the case. Let's meet the hash-slinging slasher himself, the guy they hit with the car last year.
How? How? I don't know.
Honestly, I'm very conflicted on this reveal because for me personally, I like whodunit mysteries where the evidence is right in front of you about who the killer is. And I feel like the idea of being like, hey, the guy that died getting into the movie is actually the killer, just kind of takes away from you watching the movie and being like, oh, okay, so this character would have reasons to do this because this stuff happened between them and this character. And then it's just like, no, the guy that you saw die at the beginning of the movie is the killer. Like, how did he survive? Because he was hit by a car and then thrown to the bottom of the ocean. Like, how did this man manage to survive with those injuries, swim out, heal, and then plan a revenge plot? Like, the guy has to be superhuman at this point. I'm not even kidding anymore. He's not human. He's got to be a mutant or something. But this brings us to our final confrontation of the movie. Julie is trying to escape from the hash-slinging slasher, trying to hack her to pieces, while Ray is rushing over in a speedboat trying to get up there to save her. We get this nice shot where Julie crawls into like this ice locker and she finds all of the corpses from everyone that the killer killed in the movie, and I think that's pretty cool. And then we have this big final fight on top of the deck of the ship where Ray finally arrives and they get into it. And bro, curb stomp him. What are you doing? Like, Ray manages to knock him out, and instead of finishing the job, he hugs Julie and is like, oh my god, babe, I'm so glad you're okay. No. This is not the time for that. This is not the time for that. Y'all need to be hitting the JoJo's on his head right now, okay? You can't just leave him on the ground, because then he's gonna end. He got back up. Listen, I get it. At the time this movie came out, Zombieland wasn't a thing. They didn't learn about the double tap method just yet. But personally speaking, I was raised that if I get into a fight, make sure the person that I'm going to fight with doesn't get back up. Because if they get back up, then my life is in danger again. And if it's an extreme situation where my life is on the line, kill the person. That's just how I was raised. My parents, they were real OGs. They were ruthless like that. But I digress. Eventually, they end up defeating the killer. They cut off his right hand, which I think is pretty cool because they mention in like the myth about the killer at the very beginning of the movie when they were all hanging out at the beach that one of the interpretations of the story is that he was missing a hand and had it replaced with a hook, much like the hash-slinging slasher. And before anyone says it in the comments, I know I keep calling him the hash-slinging slasher. I know the name of the killer is the fisherman, but come on. He looks like the hash-slinging slasher from SpongeBob, so I'm gonna keep referring to him as such the rest of this franchise. But yeah, they defeat him and everything seems fine. The cops ask them what's going on and they're just like, yeah, we don't know why he wanted to kill us. Like, that's weird, bro. Like, we just normal 18, 19-year-olds. Like, I don't know why this guy wanted to kill us. And they never find the body, which that would leave me concerned. Because, like, what do you mean you didn't find the body? Like, his hand got cut off and he got dropped into the ocean. What do you mean you didn't find the body? Dude, you gotta find him, because if he's not found, then he's probably still alive. He survived last time. The cop would be like, I'd be like, I mean, you know, if you don't find him, there's a possibility he's alive. There was no last time. But now we once again skip ahead to a year later, and we see Julie is doing a lot better. She's very happy and even a bit freaky now.
Ray, don't you start with me. Look, you Mr. can ravage me in 2 weeks.
Oh my.
And we get this little tense moment where she gets this letter and she opens it up and it's just an invitation to a frat party. But the movie doesn't end there, because Julie goes to take a shower and she sees that someone wrote mysteriously on the mirror,
Gotcha. Scared you.
yeah, that's the end of the movie. So Julie's dead. That's one way to end a film, you know? Like, really? We just end the movie by being like, oh, our hero survived, and then actually, no, she didn't. The fuck is this, Final Destination 5? But yeah, so that is the first I Know What You Did Last Summer, and honestly, it's a pretty fun movie. I did quite enjoy it. I do have my gripes with it, between Barry and the killer hunting down people that it had nothing to do with. But overall, I think this is a fun movie, and given the fact that it was made in under a year is absolutely insane. I truly commend the people that worked on this movie for getting it together in such a limited amount of time and releasing it for the world to see and it being a success. That is an insane and unsurmountable task that they managed to do, and they deserve all their flowers for it. So, for the time being, I Know What You Did Last Summer is going number 1 on the ranking, but we'll see how it holds up after we review the next 2 movies. So, without further ado, let's get into... This movie wastes no time in throwing you right into the fire. We open up with a dream sequence letting us know that the end of the first movie wasn't real. We see Julie get killed by the hash-slinging slasher in a confessional, and then she wakes up screaming in the middle of her class. Everyone here is a dickhead. Everyone's just like, oh man, you woke up screaming in the class? What a joke. And they're just laughing at her like, bro, at the very least, her professor should be like, are you good? Because that's not normal. But instead, everyone's just laughing at her because they're a bunch of dickheads, bro. Yo, the killer of this movie, Julie is aight. You should let her slide. Get these jackasses in this classroom out of here. But Julie dips out of class, and then Will follows after her, and he's like, hey, yo, you good? They chat up a little bit, and then Will leaves, and then Ray shows up, and the two of them actually end up getting into a bit of a fight, because Julie and Ray had plans to go back to their hometown during the summer vacation, and Ray was going to take her there. But because Julie's been having these extensive nightmares about the hash-slinging slasher killing her, she doesn't really want to go back home for the summer. And this causes a big problem, because Ray works in their hometown. Like, he's got a full 9-to-5 job. He can't just leave for 2 months, otherwise he'll get fired, which is the thing that Julie offers up as a solution. She's just like, well, I don't want to go back home, so why don't you just stay here in Boston with me for the next 2 months? It's like,
What? No.
this results in Ray being very upset with Julie, which, to put this into context, because this movie desperately tries to make you think that Ray is entirely in the wrong here, they made plans, weeks, days, months in advance even, to be like, hey, we're going to spend the summer together in our hometown. And on the day that Ray's supposed to pick her up and take her back home, she's like,
I don't really feel like it.
which doesn't work because Ray has to work in their hometown. He can't just disappear for 2 months and do fuck all. Yet constantly throughout this movie, Julie's best friend Carla is like, yo, Ray is a piece of shit. You should cheat on him with Will and start dating that guy. And it's like, he's just upset that his girlfriend botched their summer plans together. And we learn later on in the movie that the reason he's so upset about it is because he was planning to propose to Julie that summer. And by her not going back home diminishes his opportunity to do such a thing. So like bro, chill. But Julie ends up going back to her apartment after her fight with Ray, and she ends up having this creepy ass moment where Carla tries to sneak into her apartment and steal some clothes.
What are you doing in my clothes?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
This prompts Carla to dragging Julie out with her and her boyfriend, whose name I forget. Give me a second. Tyrell! Carla takes out Julie with her and Tyrell to the club, and Will is also there because, again, Carla is desperately trying to get Julie this entire movie to cheat on Ray with Will to an absurd degree. Like, we never even really understand why Carla hates Ray so much. She just does. So Julie is waiting for Will to grab them some drinks, but while she's hanging out there, she starts hallucinating the Hashling Slasher, and she's like, you know what?
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
And she goes home. Following morning, Carla shows up at Julie's place, and the two of them get to chatting, and then the phone rings. And in this scene, we get a lot of vital information. We learn that Julie's phone number is unlisted, so no one should have it. And then Carla's like, yeah, but I gave the phone number to my boyfriend Tyrell, so that's why he has your phone number. Julie's like, bro, I unlisted my number for a reason. I don't want people knowing where I live or how to contact me. Why are you doing this? But then, as soon as Carla picks up the phone, we assume it's gonna be Tyrell, but instead, it is a random radio station that's like, hey, you two have won a trip to the Bahamas if you can answer this question. What is the capital of Brazil? And the answer they end up giving is Rio, which, if you know anything about geography and capitals, that is not the capital of Brazil. So if you were paying attention to the scene, we got two vital pieces of information that let us know that it's a trap. But they don't see it that way. They're just excited that they get a weekend vacation to the Bahamas. And Julie tries to contact Ray to get him to go with them since they won 4 tickets. Ray, still upset that Julie ruined their summer vacation plans, is like, nah, I don't think I'll be able to make it. I got work, blah, 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 blah. And honestly, I'll admit, Ray is being petty here. Yeah, I get it that Julie ruined your 2-month vacation that the two of you were supposed to spend together in your hometown, but come on, man. She's trying to make amends and take you out to a very memorable and loving, murderous vacation with the Hashling Slasher in the Bahamas. You should totally take her up on that offer. Okay, I'm joking. That was just for jokes, but seriously, like, Ray is being a bit petty here, and he should have taken Julie up on the offer. So much so that his friend at the fisherman's yard, or port, whatever they call those things. I'm not a fisherman. I don't know, man. But his friend's like, dude, what's wrong with you? Go to the Bahamas with your girlfriend. He's like, listen, I have a place out there. I'll take you out there. We'll go together. You can surprise her, and you can tell her that you want to marry her because he tells him about the ring that he planned to propose to her with. Now, I'm going to admit, I don't remember the order of events these next couple of things happened, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to wrap up Ray's storyline because he doesn't really do much in this movie, same way that he didn't do much in the first movie, before we move over to Julie and everything else that she's dealing with. Ray and his friend here, they start heading out to the Bahamas, and they end up coming across an accident. Ray goes to check it out because he's very suspicious and he thinks it might be the Hashling Slasher, which, like, why would you think that? Like, it's an accident. You know what I mean? Like, it could just be a normal accident. He ends up being right, and this was a ploy by the Hashling Slasher, but, like, your initial thought of that is kind of absurd because he just saw a car accident and was like,
Played these games before!
Are you sure?
Last time I checked, you hit somebody with a car in the first movie. This is nowhere near the same set of circumstances. But he goes over there, he checks, he finds out that it's a mannequin, and he's like, oh crap. And then we get the first kill of the movie. R.I.P. his friend. Again, same problem as the first movie. Why are you killing random people? Ray was right there for the taking. You could have just offed him and been done with it. You would have only had Julie left to kill. Why did you kill his friend? He had nothing to do with anything. But Ray then tries to escape from the killer. He's run off the road and is knocked unconscious. When Ray wakes up, he then heads out to a pawn shop, sells the ring he was going to propose to Julie with, and buys a revolver. And then he ends up stealing a boat and heads off to the Bahamas because he knows Julie is in danger from the Hashling Slasher. And that is what Ray does up until the final climax of the movie that we will get to much later in this video. Now cutting back to Julie, Tyrell, Carla, and Will, The four of them meet up to head off to the Bahamas, and Julie's like, you know what, I'm gonna put my thoughts of Ray on the side here. I'm gonna head out and I'm gonna have a good time with all of my friends, which, by the way, Will being invited by Carla to go on this vacation, kinda crazy, because again, Carla really trying to push Julie into breaking up and cheating on Ray. Like, dial it back, or at the very least explain why you hate the man so much. Now the four of them arrive at their Bahamas resort, and this nigga horny.
My name is Derek, and I will be at your service for the duration of your stay, ladies.
Duration of your stay, lady.
Listen, old man, I gotta work fast. Season's almost over.
Like, bro, faking a whole ass accent just to holler at baddies is crazy. Especially because he saw them get off the boat with their mans. But now they're at the resort and everything seems fine at first until they learn that there's only like 5 people working at the resort right now because storm season is rolling in, and all the tourists and vacationers that we just saw there dipped out because they don't want to be in the Bahamas during storm season. But they're like, screw it, we're going to be here for a few days. We're going to make the best of it no matter what the case is. And they all try and have some fun. However, things don't really work out in any of their ways because Tyrell's whole thing this entire movie is that he wants to fuck Carla, but he never gets to fuck Carla. Like, that's an ongoing joke this entire movie, that the two of them are a couple and he's just trying to smash day and night, but something keeps interrupting them every time they're about to smash, and it just frustrates him the entire movie. And like, at first it was kind of funny, but by the time we get to like the 15th time that this happens, I'm just like, alright, I get it! But to be honest, I'd rather deal with Tyrell being a horn dog than deal with Barry, so I'm okay with this. Also, Jack Black is here.
Why?
I don't know why he has a cameo in this movie as like this dreadlocked stoner, but he's here, and like, I don't really know what to do with this information. This caught me off guard. I even tweeted about it while I was watching these movies a few weeks ago. I'm just like, why is Jack Black here? This is so jarring. But if I'm being honest, unlike the first movie, there isn't really an interesting narrative to follow while they're at the Bahamas resort. So we're just going to speed run through everything that happens here and get to the climax of the movie. So everything that happens in the second act of the movie basically goes like this. They get there, they try and make the best of everything that's going on, they're trying to have fun, but the killer keeps messing with Julie. He alters the lyrics on the karaoke machine, so Julie starts tripping balls. She goes back to her room, she finds out there's a dead body in her closet because the killer murdered the boatsman that I mentioned a moment ago. Then Julie tries to tell everyone that there was a dead body in there, and then of course he used his Speed Force abilities because again, he's Eobard fucking Thawne, and he removed the body and all of the blood and any evidence that was in the closet to make Julie look like she was crazy. He kills Jack Black because
I don't know.
Again, same problem as the first movie. He's just offing random individuals for no goddamn reason. And then he has the golden opportunity to kill Julie, but instead of like stabbing Julie or mutilating her like he's fucking Sung Jin Woo, now he decides to zip tie her into the tanning bed and then crank it to 100 degrees. And it's like, why are you trying to kill her in these elaborate ways? You've never succeeded at doing that. You literally just hacked to pieces Helen and Barry. Just stick with what you're good at, hash-slinging slasher. But Julie's freaking out because she can't get out of the tanning bed, and then her friends start discovering all of the corpses of everyone who was murdered throughout the course of the movie, and they're like, oh shit, Julie was right. We gotta find her. So then they end up freeing Julie, and they're like, damn, so there's a killer here. We can't get off the island. We gotta figure out what to do. And originally their plan was to go and call the emergency radio, but I skipped over that part. But after Julie found the dead body in her closet, she was like, yo, I'm freaking out, I want to get off this island. And they're like, is there a way to contact anyone out? And the concierge kind of started to get up in Julie and Carla's face until Tyrell stepped in, which, mad respect, bro, for standing up for the rest of them. I appreciate that. That's a good character moment for you. But he's just like, we do have a radio, but it's for emergencies. And Carla's like, isn't this an emergency? And he's like, no, it's not. We'll be all right. He, in fact, is not all right. Now, they're completely stranded on the island until the storm clears up and the next boat pulls in. So now they're just like, okay, we're in a cat and mouse chase with a random killer trying to kill us, and Julie reveals to all of them what happened in the first I Know What You Did Last Summer, and she explains everything going on with the killer and why he's after them. And my thing is, did no one know that? Like, did no one know that? Because this is something they bring up in the third movie, but there are news reports of what happened in the first movie. So, like, did they not know that the hash-slinging slasher is missing and not dead? Because I remember the cops saying they couldn't find his body at the end of the first movie.
Well, don't worry. The body will turn up.
Or did the cops report him as dead despite not being able to find his body? Because if he did that, That's fucking stupid. Also, why do none of these chuckle fucks believe Julie? Especially Tyrell. This entire movie, this man's been like, Julie, you're crazy. There's no dead body in your closet. There's no killer on this island. You're just overreacting. She got proven to be right about every single son of a fucking thing. Yet even now in the final hour where she's like, I know who the killer is. I know why he's after us. This man's like, I don't know. Nigga, shut the fuck up and listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. You've been wrong about everything. And why the fuck didn't Julie tell them that the blood message on the wall was directed at her and parallels the message that she got in the first movie that said, I know what you did last summer. Girl, you have the smoking gun of evidence. Please just say something, then hopefully these idiots will listen. But you know what? I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. Especially Tyrell. Again, especially Tyrell's annoying ass. This is why he gets taken out in a stealth takedown.
Personally, I haven't seen one goddamn psycho killer.
That was rude, but I'm upset. Let's speed run through the rest of these character deaths. And then he ends up killing the hot bartender chick who was there when they were singing karaoke. Again, I'm speed running through stuff because like introducing these characters doesn't really matter. There was also a maid that he killed, but like, do you really care that he killed the maid? She has like no lines in the movie. Do you really care that I glossed over the fact that the hash slinging slasher killed the maid? Really? Yes! So now we're down to our final three, that being Will, Julie, and Carla. And when I say final three, I actually mean final two, because it is revealed that Will is actually the son of the hash slinging slasher.
Ben's son! Hi, Dad.
Something I didn't mention about in the first movie because it's not really that vital of information. The hash slinging slasher had kids, and in this movie they flesh out his story by saying he had a wife and he had 2 kids. His daughter died. I think he killed his wife or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's just lore that they're adding onto this story to explain why he's a crazy killer. Like, he could just be a crazy guy. He doesn't need like a crazy backstory. That's very unnecessary. But they give you this long drawn out explanation about why he's crazy, and I don't care. It's just yap. But that's all there to explain why he has a son that's around the same age as Julie, and now the two of them want to kill Julie. Her and Carla try to escape, doesn't really work out that well, and now they're cornered, but Ray shows up in just the nick of time to yeah, it didn't work out too well now, did it? But thankfully Julie is the GOAT and she manages to get her hands on the gun, and I find this scene to be the funniest fucking scene in the entire trilogy. Listen to how many shots Julie fires into this man.
Just fucking die!
That's right, you heard that correct. 8 shots. She's using a revolver. And before I get a gun enthusiast in the comments, yes, there are specially made revolvers that can hold 8 bullets, but this is not one of those. Julie fired 8 shots off of a 6-shooter revolver. That is absolutely hysterical to me. I rewound that scene so many times when I was first watching the movie because I was like, wait a minute. There ain't no way I just heard that. There is no way that that was a revolver going off that amount of times. And it most certainly was, and I could not stop laughing when I heard it. But long story short, Julie, Ray, and Carla managed to survive. They kill the hash slinging slasher and the hash slinging slasher junior, and everything is hunky-dory. We then skip ahead sometime in the future, and we see that Ray and Julie have bought a house together. They've gotten married, or at least engaged, and they are very happy and healthy. But of course, this is where I find out that this movie has a trend of ending it the exact same way the first movie did. And by that I mean... yeah, they end every movie in this franchise with the final girl being attacked by the killer after they think everything is said and done. And like... Why? That's such a weird trope to end your movies on. I don't understand why you would do that. Like, sure, it's a unique gimmick, but I don't inherently think that's a good one, because what happens when you want to make a sequel? You then have to retcon the ending of the previous movie, like you had to do in this one. So, like, I don't understand it. And then what makes it worse is that the third movie follows an entirely different cast. So technically, up until this 4th movie came out, Julie just dies at the end of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which is insane to me. But now that we talked about the entire movie, that brings us to the point where I have to rank it. And hot take, I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, I like it more than the first movie.
No.
Relax, I have a valid explanation for it, okay? I really do not like Barry. It's to the point that he kills my enjoyment in the first movie, and I really didn't feel the mystery was satisfying in the first one, because they really ham-fisted that, ooh, Ray's probably the killer because he's Billy Blue and he's not around in most of the movies and we don't see him get attacked like we see everybody else get attacked, so he's gotta be the killer. It is like the most obvious red herring that I have ever seen. However, I think the reveal that Will is the Hashling Slasher Jr. works so much better. And I didn't mention this earlier, but Will ends up being the person that called them in on the fake radio station in an awesome scene.
Come on, Julie, what's your favorite radio station? 96.7. It's time for you to contemplate the ultimate quickie getaway.
Like, that's really cool, because that explains how he got the number, because he stole the number from his friend Tyrell so he could contact them and set up this whole fake vacation thing. That all works so well, and I really enjoyed that in the movie because I was curious as to what was going on. I just assumed that the Hashling Slasher from the first movie came back and was doing all this. I never once suspected that he would have had a son that was going to be his accomplice in everything that was going on, and I thought that was a really good inclusion to the movie. That made me enjoy it a lot more. Plus, I think this movie is just a bit funnier than the first movie, because I didn't mention this as well because Tyrell's not really that big in the movie, but he kind of just hates Julie because her frantic nature kind of just stops him from hooking up with his girlfriend, and it's just like, dude, I get you're horny, but like, relax a bit. And I just like their interactions in the movies because despite him not liking Julie for the sake of the fact that he kind of puts a wedge between him and his girlfriend, she puts a wedge between him and his girlfriend, he still respects her on a level that he's willing to protect her when things go wrong. But yeah, at the end of the day, all those reasons are why I ended up enjoying this movie a bit more, and I'd rather rewatch this than the first movie. And again, I cannot stress enough, I fucking hate he really bogs down that first movie to a point that I do not want to rewatch it. That's my hot take about this movie. So right now in the ranking, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is taking the first place spot. But we've still got one more movie left to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into... We're in the end game now, folks, with the final movie of this trilogy, and I've got a hot take incoming. I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer has the best plot out of the entire trilogy. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but just hear me out. This movie follows Amber, Zoe, Colby, Roger, and PJ. These 5 decide to pull a prank on their hometown by pretending to be attacked by the fisherman killer. You see, they have Roger dress up as him and he attacks the rest of them during the town's carnival in this big theatrical display that everyone in town believes is a real-life serial killer trying to murder them. Now, they're able to do this because, as I briefly mentioned earlier, the events of the first and second movie are well-documented news reports that have even transcended that and become an urban legend, with the fisherman killer being known as a murderer that reappears every 4th of July to murder teenagers that have some kind of dark secret. So they use this as the basis for their prank and had Roger dress up as the fisherman, and now he's chasing them throughout the carnival. And the grand finale to their prank is that Roger and PJ were supposed to fight each other on top of a roof in the carnival area, and PJ was going to jump off the roof out of view from everyone watching. However, there's a bit of a snag in their plan. You see, they set up a bunch of mattresses as a cushion for PJ to land on when he jumped off of the building. However, during the time that they set up and the time that they executed the prank, someone replaced the mattresses with
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, PJ is dead, and I will bring this up now. You can bring up a point of contention here saying that, well, PJ was going to jump off the building. Did he not look when he was jumping off? Could he not see that there was a tractor right where the cushions would be? And the answer to that is, yeah, you're right. He probably should have seen that, and that's 100% a flaw with this, but fuck it, we ball. Now, I love the premise of this because it adds a lot of weight and stakes to everything that our main characters did. Now, obviously, earlier on in the video, I jokingly made fun of the fact that the main characters of I Know What You Did Last Summer were really stupid and how they were trying to dispose of the body and everything. That was all just in jest. I didn't really mean any of that. Obviously, they were drunk, stupid teenagers that were scared after running someone over with their car, and that's why they reacted in such an idiotic way. However, that being said, what I actually don't like about that movie is the fact that there's a bit of a cop-out in regards to them doing something bad. Because we learn by the end of the movie that Ben Willis, the fisherman, the hash-slinging slasher himself, was a murderer from the beginning. Like, when they hit him with the car, that was after he just murdered the man David Egan, the guy that Julie originally mistook for being the killer hunting them down. The guy was a bad guy from the jump. So they didn't hit an innocent person and then reaped the consequences of doing something like that. They hit a crazy murderer who then became petty and then hunted them down for 2 movies. But in this, our new merry band of misfits did do everything wrong. PJ's death is 100% their fault, and it adds so much weight to it because now you're like, okay, who knows that they fucked up? Who knows that they did this really horrible thing and wants to get revenge on them? Because everyone in their town could be a suspect. You have to think of it from this perspective. Everyone in town believes a serial killer just appeared out of nowhere and attacked a bunch of teenagers. They have no idea if they came from out of town or if it's one of their neighbors that dressed up and then went on a murder rampage. No one knows that. You would be suspecting your neighbors if something like that happened to you in such a small town. So everyone in the town would be 100% paranoid. Then in regards to the police officers, they're looking for a serial killer and wasting time and resources trying to find a criminal that doesn't actually exist, on top of the fact that PJ was not only the golden boy of their town, he's also the sheriff's son. So now you have the idea that one of the cops could be the killer trying to get revenge for their sheriff losing his son, or maybe the sheriff himself has become the killer that's hunting down our characters a year after they accidentally murdered PJ and he's trying to get revenge for his son's death. Or it could be more than one person who figured out this situation. Like, there are so many possibilities with it, between the townsfolk doing it for revenge of being lied to about a killer and getting the paranoia built up inside of them, or the cops doing it. Like, you could go so many different routes. Hell, even one of the members of the main core 4 that survived the accident could be the killer because they could be guilt-ridden. That's something that they bring up in the movie, that Roger is extremely guilt-ridden over what they did. They go in a different direction than him becoming the killer in the movie, but still, it's so interesting to see that this movie has so many different facets that anyone could be the new hash-slinging slasher that's hunting them down, and that engaged me to get me through the movie. And another thing that was handled extremely well is that the hash-slinging slasher doesn't waste time in this movie. Yes, there are 2 moments where he could have killed 2 of the main characters and decided not to because he was screwing with them. But it doesn't feel as disingenuous as it did in the previous 2 movies, where he was killing random people that had nothing to do with the plot whatsoever. Every time he goes for an attack, it is on one of the main characters, so it feels like there's a level of intensity in the film. Because first, he went and he killed Roger, off rip. One of the main characters, dead, gone, right out the gate. Then he goes after Zoe and scares her by destroying her guitar and destroying the room that she's in, and that makes her paranoid. Then he goes after Colby and cuts his leg to the point that Colby is stuck in a cast the rest of the movie. Like, every time he attacks the characters, it is important. And then after those 2 instances in the middle of the movie, he just goes and starts offing them one by one. And I think that works so much better than the killer just murdering random people because they're like, oh, well, we need more kills in the movie to pad out the runtime. I would rather there be less kills in the movie and each attack be meaningful to the story than having random people die. Because, like, what was the point of the maid dying in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer? I know I joked about it, not talking about the maid earlier, but, like, seriously, why kill the maid? What did the maid do? You went to that island to kill Julie. Why did you kill anyone but Julie? What the fuck were you doing? So I greatly appreciate the killer being more focused on attacking the right people in this movie, and that elevated it for me to the point that I was really enjoying it, and it allowed me to look past a lot of the flaws in the movie. However, that didn't last because this movie is still ass.
Say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Yeah, that's right, you heard me. This movie is still ass because it is solid. Despite all of its problems, I'm able to wade through all of them up until the very end of the movie where they reveal who the new hash-slinging slasher is, and they decide to do the thing that ruins so many horror movies, and they decided to go the supernatural route.
No. Wait.
You see, in this movie, the hash-slinging slasher is some kind of vengeful ghost spirit zombie thing that is trying to kill any teenager that has a dark secret on the 4th of July. And it's like, bro, this movie was so compelling and interesting because of the mystery of who that killer could actually be. And the answer being, it was a ghost. Like, what the fuck? Why? Why would you do that? Why? That's such a dumb decision. How did you craft such an interesting mystery and then decided, oh, what do we do? I got it. Ghost zombie. Why? Why? What about that was a good idea? You had it. You were right at the finish line and then you fumbled. Why? Why did you have to fumble? This was so close to being so good. Because now, with that twist ruining the end of this movie, ruining any intrigue I have on rewatching it because I know it's going to have a terrible ending, all of the flaws and cracks in the movie start to come back in. I realize that this movie looks like shit because it looks like somebody tried to copy what Saw looks like and did it poorly. It's got like the muted color palette that Saw has and the weird glitchy kind of editing that I've seen from Saw movies. Like, it doesn't work. It just looks bad, like you're trying to copy somebody else's homework. Same thing goes with Zoe having a random Final Destination premonition in the middle of the movie. Why did she have that? It's never brought up that she's like a supernaturally inclined being or anything, that she's connected to anything like that. She's just a singer. Like, she's a rocker. That's it. Why did she randomly have a premonition of her own death? Where did that come from? And this franchise as a whole is already just Scream at home, so like that's not adding anything extra to this. So it's just like, this movie is trying so hard to be like multiple different other movies. And then obviously the big thing with the supernatural thing, so many horror movies fall into this trope. You know, Halloween, you had the cults in the middle movies that people didn't like. Jason becomes like a zombie thing in later movies. Hell, even stories that start off with supernatural stuff get even dumber and weirder the longer they go on. Like Chucky, that started off as a guy transferring his soul into a doll. But by the time you get to the most recent Chucky movie, he can split his soul into multiple parts and control multiple different Chucky dolls as well as other human beings. Like, it gets way more absurd. Don't get it twisted. I like Chucky. I do want to do a video reviewing the entire Chucky franchise one of these days if you guys are into it, because I actually really like those movies. But regardless, it gets insane with the level of supernatural nonsense that goes on the later the series goes on. And even movies that are coming out in the future, like The Black Phone 2. That movie is going to be about the killer from The Black Phone coming back as like a demon or a ghost. And it's like, why do we always have to go supernatural when we expand these horror movies into franchises? Just let them be normal. That's why Scream is still as successful as it is. Yes, it's also due to writing and acting and directing and all of those wonderful things that make movies great. But a part of what makes Scream so interesting is that it never jumped the shark. It has stayed grounded. You could watch the first Scream or the sixth Scream and it still feels like the same franchise. But by throwing in a supernatural ghost zombie as the killer of this movie makes it feel tonally inconsistent with the rest of I Know What You Did Last Summer movies. I just can't comprehend why they would do this. And obviously, yes, the big elephant in the room is that I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer is a direct-to-DVD movie that was made by an entirely different company from the first two movies. So that will 100% play a factor into this movie feeling differently than the other two movies did. But even with that being the case, even with it feeling different, that didn't mean that it had to have a terrible twist ending. Like, this was so bad. And I know I'm going about this movie differently than I did the other two, where I kind of did more or less of a play-by-play of everything that was going on, but like, I don't want to talk about this movie to build up to the thing that really pissed me off, because you don't care about the rest of this movie, about them investigating who the killer is, just to build up to being a big pile of bullshit nothingness. Like, come on, people, don't lie to me. I could sit here and talk about how Amber and Colby were dating before the time skip and the incident that happened where PJ died, and then they broke up, and then she started dating Lance, but like, none of that really matters. You don't care. Sure, I could talk about how Lance is in the movie as kind of a red herring because he's there to be the cousin to PJ that you think might be the killer, but again, that boils back down to the killer's a zombie, so him being in the movie is just like, oh, that's pointless. It doesn't add any tension because the reveal is that the killer is a ghost zombie. I could talk about how the only reason any of these characters die is because of Zoe, with the exception of Roger. All of these characters die because of Zoe. They were all planning to leave town and be free of everything. But then Zoe was like, oh, but I have a chance to get a deal with this music producer, so I want to sing at this concert so that he'll give me a record deal. Ma'am, you can't have a record deal if you're dead. you can't have your record deal because you're dead. Good job on wasting your life and future record deals that you could have gotten because you had to get this one instead of leaving the town where the fucking serial killer is trying to kill you. It's just every aspect of this movie was fine. But then when that reveal hit, like all the negative aspects of it just came back to me and start pissing me off. And it's like, I don't want to sit here and go through every aspect of this movie talking about how it now pisses me off because they ruined the ending. This was shaping up to be my favorite one. I was so looking forward to this being my favorite one of these. I was like, you know what? They're kind of cooking with this one. Yeah, the directing and everything is a bit weird, but you know what? I'm digging it. I don't know why people think this one is so bad. And then I got to the last 10 minutes and I was like, son of a bitch. Oh man, it just really upset me. And the very final ending, the last scene of this movie, straight garbage. Because yes, they did go in the same route, paying homage to the first two I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, where the main character is killed by the killer at the end of the movie. But like, it's just so dumb with this because Amber's just on her way home. She's talking to Lance on the phone. She gets a flat tire and then she's just like standing in the middle of the road looking around, and then all of a sudden the killer just spawns in with instant transmission and murks her. And I'm like,
don't fuck yourself.
Disrespectfully, of course.
Don't fuck yourself.
Like, I just, no, I'm done. I'm over it. This movie, the bottom of the ranking. It's going at the bottom of the ranking. Like, it's just, I wanted this movie to be so good. It had the potential. That's what makes it more upsetting to me. It had the potential to be the best one despite all of its flaws, and it fumbled the bag because it decided to be stupid right at the end of it. Bottom of the ranking. So my final ranking, everyone, for this trilogy. At number 3, we've got I'll Always Know What You Do Last Summer. Trash movie, ruined itself with the ending, had so much potential that was absolutely wasted. Very upset that they ruined my mood with this. At number 2, we've got I Know What You Did Last Summer. I know that's going to piss a lot of people off, but like I said, I can't stand Barry. He ruins the movie to a certain degree for me, and I don't like the cop-out that our main characters didn't actually do anything wrong because they just hit a murderer with their car. Like, I feel like we could have just let them hit somebody innocent with their car and then face the repercussions of it. But it is what it is. I understand the trope of, you know, wanting our heroes to still be good people. And then at the top of the list, we have I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I think this movie is a ton of fun. I like the twist about the killer's son being one of the main members of the crew. I think that was a very unexpected twist that I didn't see coming. The kills in the movie are pretty fun. I didn't really hate any of the characters. Like, sure, Tyrell can be a little annoying at times with him not believing anything that Julie is saying and being stupid, but it never reaches Barry levels of insufferable to me. So it allows me to enjoy this movie to an insane degree, and that's why it's going to be at the top of my ranking. But yeah, that is my review and ranking for the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy. This video is ridiculously long because I went into unnecessary amounts of detail talking about all 3 of these movies, but hopefully you enjoyed and had a fun time watching this video. I'm very much looking forward to the 4th installment, the reboot sequel, I Know What You Did Last Summer, that as of me releasing this video will come out in like a couple of days because I recorded the intro first, which I probably should have done last. So when I started recording this video, it was a few weeks before that movie was going to come out. But now that I'm at the end of the video, instead of re-recording the intro, I'm just letting you know that there's like a couple of days actually between the release of this video and the release of I Know What You Did Last Summer. So, you know, YouTube nonsense, timey-wimey shenanigans, so much fun. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to going to see that in a few days. I think it looks solid. I think it looks fun. I'm hoping I end up liking it and it doesn't ruin itself by the end of the movie. I just, like, please, I'm begging you, just work. I just need you to work. I don't expect that much from these movies. They're not like crazy cinematic masterpieces. Just don't do anything stupid and I will have a good time. That's all I'm asking for. But yeah, sincerely, I thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, you're a real OG because, you know, I don't expect a lot of people to actually make it this far. So thank you very much for making it to the end of this video. And of course, I gotta say, thank you everyone for 1,000 subscribers. That is a big milestone given I am an extremely small channel, and I am very happy that you guys got me there. Like, you really put in the effort. You've been subscribing, you've been watching my shorts, you've been watching my videos. Y'all been in there. Y'all been in there watching my content, and now I'm at 1,000 subs. That's awesome. You know, we still on the free side of things. All right, you know, I'm not big time yet. We not making money out here. Okay, I'm still working the 9 to 5, making these videos just for purely your enjoyment and my own as well. All right, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get big time one day, but y'all getting me to 1K, that's a start. That's a big start. That's a huge stepping stone, and I greatly appreciate that. Y'all enjoying my content that I'm making, because there are definitely other YouTubers, content creators that have better editing than me. They have better personalities. They got better jokes, but for whatever reason, you like seeing me yap about movies in my bedroom because I'm broke. I can't afford a studio room. This is all I got here. So, you know, I appreciate you guys doing that for me. It is so fantastic to have a community that is willing to support my shenanigans. So thank you once again. And without further ado, I hope y'all stay blessed. Y'all have a wonderful day. And never forget, I am the innocent villain. And remember, you're innocent till proven villainous. And I will catch you in whatever the hell I do next. Peace. Wait, what do you mean that there's a TV show?